Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did speak to City Attorney Langle today regarding what the legal process would have to be. Can the City Council indeed just suspend part of the ordinance if they were to do that? How can they just do that via a motion? Does that have to be done by a resolution? What would that process look like if the council is interested in that? Or is the council just looking at looking at the ordinance as a whole? Either way you looked at it, Attorney Langle, his opinion was that you have to go through the full amendment process. So that is having a public hearing. So you have to draft an ordinance, or draft an amendment, or draft the language for suspension, which that would still be an ordinance amendment saying you're just going to suspend X amount of the ordinance for this length of time. It'd have to go to a public hearing and 2 readings. I brought up to him, well, what with the patios that we did back in June, or is that May? All kinds of blurs together now. That was something that the council could just do by resolution or by motion. And he said, well, in that case, that was a direct result to the health emergency, the pandemic. Businesses couldn't have allowed to open unless they did this. It was direct correlation, so that was fine. He said doing it in this case would be quite a stretch to try to tie food trucks to COVID-19, even though there is that idea of the food trucks are getting out and about more because of fairs and many fairs being canceled. But he said that would be a stretch. Because really what you're just looking at is allowing more business in the city, not allowing existing businesses to operate if they otherwise. So the direction at this point is no matter what the city council does, you have to go through the regular amendment process. So now the question is to the committee and then the council is, what would you like to do with this? When we brought this before the council on July 20th, there seemed to be some interest in taking a look again at section 66 of the zoning code, the transient food overlay district, maybe considering making some amendments to it. But I think there was some disagreement at what that looked like. So we were kind of bringing it back in a more of a discussion format tonight to figure out what direction would the council like to take moving forward, so we as staff can take the proper steps. So is that setting up hearings, is it a drafting an ordinance for consideration? What is it that council would like us to do in regards to section 66 and food trucks?
Okay, so you understand that even if we wanted to delete or suspend the entire ordinance, as Mr. Chansky suggested last time, it's going to take a minimum of 4 weeks, 2 weeks?
2 meetings.
2 meetings, which we could do tonight. Start the process tonight. Or we can start over looking at the ordinance, understanding that it's not necessarily going to work for this fall at all. So what do you think, Jen and Wayne? Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I guess my question was, I really think this probably should go back to planning and zoning and look at the ordinances as a whole. The other thing too, if we have a situation like this, if we take COVID, I mean, there is no reason why there could be a good possibility that restaurants that have been shut down would have the opportunity to be a food truck if they chose to do so. If we did not have this ordinance, or if we decided to look outside the box. Well, I think we should go back to P&Z and just review the whole thing. Thanks.
Jan, does that mean no changes for this fall? Just
kind of. We're going to say, by the time we get it done, whether they're gonna have 4 weeks or something like that, and food trucks are gonna be shutting down, you know. So the last big fair is, the Minnesota Fair, and then the Renaissance, and all that's been shut down, and we're looking at September already. I mean, that's my view.
Well, sure. Wayne, what do you think? You're muted, Wayne. You're still muted, Wayne.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, I guess I would agree with Jan. It's getting late in the year. Unless there's a number of applications or people that want to come in. I mean, we've only got 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks left. Yeah, I don't know. We probably should table it for now.
What about sending it back to planning and zoning, Wayne?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that. Get something moving.
Okay, Jan, you want to make that motion?
I sure can, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion that we refer this back to planning and zoning to review the food truck ordinance, and possible update.
And I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. Engineer Sandy, would you call the roll?
Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes. That motion carries. We're moving on to the 8th Street Northeast cut across traffic discussion. Engineer Sandy, can you bring us up to speed?
yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last council meeting, the committee and council acted on a motion to install some signs along 8th Street and the approaches to 8th Street to try to prevent large trucks from going through there as more of a shortcut. You'll recall from that conversation that Google Maps does actually take you cross country here and shows you to use 8th Street instead of traveling south down Avenue and taking the left at Highway 210. And so that's a first step in trying to resolve this issue. Staff ordered a few signs, and you can see a diagram of the sign attached to your agenda request, and I'll put it up here. I have it tagged wrong. Give me 1 second.
You rolled right past it. It's right above that. Yeah, there you go.
Here's the sign we ordered. We ordered 4 of them. There'll be 2 on the approach to 8th Street and 1 on 8th Street as you turn on. So that we try to divert any large commercial traffic from traveling down H. That will be traffic that we've gotten the most complaints on is the commercial 18-wheelers traveling through this area, through a residential neighborhood, when really they should be on the trunk highways and on the county road system. We ordered the signs. Sign companies are pretty behind right now. It's a busy time of year for them. I just wanted to bring this to the committee so that they know that we're still working on it. The signs are ordered. They were ordered the day after the meeting. We just had to receive them or put them up. So once we have those up, I guess staff would like 2 weeks or a month to see if it's working. By that time, we're going to be in the winter months and construction season will be over. So there may be less heavy commercial traffic. So I don't know how this is all going to play out, if we'll be able to get a true picture of if this is working until maybe next spring. But at least we're taking a first step and trying to stop this issue from happening. And if it doesn't work, obviously, we can move forward with additional signage, stop signs, yield signs, whatever we feel is necessary to try to divert this traffic away from our residential. Really just a discussion item or informational, FYI.
Jan, any questions of the engineer?
Yes,
No,
Kelly.
thank you.
Jan?
Jan, I do. Is there a way, Paul, that we can notify, send a message to Google saying we are doing that and they will need to readjust their routing?
So I did send a message to Google regarding this issue, and I've received an answer from them. I guess I don't expect to. I can certainly try again that we're posting this as a no truck route. However, it is a public street, and so really, I don't know. I mean, the city can say no semi trucks, but being it's a public street, I'm not sure how exactly enforceable that is. We're trying to get the trucks off of there, but
Paul, what I wanted mainly just to notify him that I don't expect you to have to go back and forth phone conversations. I would just say, hey, becoming no semi truck. So that's all I'm asking for.
we can certainly try that, Jan.
Thanks, Dan. Mayor Bedeau, anything you want to add?
I don't think so. I think this is a good first step. And, like you said, we're not going to know till next summer either way if this works or doesn't. So
I agree.
All right, there's no motions on this issue. We'll move on to item number 3, which are our Northeast Brainerd reconstruction project change order number 2. Engineer Sandy, anything you want to bring us up to speed on?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is change order 2 for our Northeast Brainerd reconstruction, which is over on B Street between Gillis Avenue and 5th Avenue Northeast, and on 5th Avenue between Washington Street and D Street. Change order is kind of broken into 2 parts. One is for some water main bedding. We ran into some pretty poor soil, some pretty poor subgrade soils to lay water main on. We decided to include some rock bedding underneath a portion of the water main for about 600 or so feet to help bed that water main to keep it stable. With that, we have a total price of $10,923. The engineering staff, we reviewed that pricing. It seems to be in line with what we typically pay for rock bedding. The other one is for a corrugated metal pipe. We have a storm sewer that runs on 5th Avenue or on B Street to the east of 5th Avenue, right by the McDonald's entrance off of B Street. When we evaluated this storm sewer, we looked at the pipe going in the direction under the street, which was fine. The problem was when it started to the outfall to the stormwater pond right behind me. Bottom of the pipe was completely gone. So we really wanted to get this metal pipe out of the McDonald's parking lot and make sure it was good. They just repaved their parking lot. And so we wanted to make sure that we replaced this pipe far enough out so that they don't have problems with it in the future or sinkholes happening. This was about 100 feet of corrugated metal pipe to our outfall for a total cost of $5,390. For a total change order amount of $16,313. These are both not state aid eligible. The storm sewer pipe is part of our local project number 1916 and will be through our storm sewer fund 238. And the other portion is a portion of BPU's water main side of the project and will be charged to BPU respectively for that rock bedding under the water main.
Thank you, Mr. Engineer. Jan or Wayne, questions of the engineer?
None.
Is there a motion to approve change order or to recommend to the council this change order number 2 for 16313?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Wayne. Is there a second, Jan?
Yes, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Paul Sandy, would you call the roll?
Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Yes, and our last item is number 4, the Laurel Street Bridge repair. Great pictures, Paul. What would you like to?
This was kind of interesting. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we received a phone call back on July 21st, and you've probably seen some construction equipment working on Laurel Street Bridge of recent. We had some washouts under the bridge due to some heavy rains we experienced. Some photos are attached, and some of the subsequent repairs work can be seen attached. We authorized this emergency work to take place in perfectly fine structural condition. We had both a MnDOT bridge engineer and our bridge inspectors look at the pictures, and being that this is a pile supported bridge and the approach tab was not undermined, the bridge was in perfectly fine condition. It was just we needed to get the slope protection put back and in a state that provides for the water to run off properly. So what we did is we called a couple of companies. Landwehr was actually in between a couple of projects, and they're kind of a specialty contractor that does a lot of bridge repair work. And so we got a hold of them. They're out of their St. Cloud office. They came out on Wednesday, that Wednesday, looked at the bridge. We authorized basically a time and materials contract. And what you see is their hourly wage proposal that they worked off of during this repair. This is their standard hourly rates for their equipment and their workers. So what we did is we ended up backfilling the washout with sand material up to about 2 feet below the actual grade of the slope protection. And we rip-wrapped everything back into place. And then we ended up grouting the riprap in to help keep that rock stable down there. The washout was caused by, well, it's kind of twofold. So there is what we call an expansion joint between the approach slab and the actual bridge itself that has a rubber membrane in between it. That rubber membrane was not adhered to the side of the approach slab like it was supposed to be. So when it rained, the water would run down between the bridge and the approach slab, down the abutment wall, and wash out under the concrete that was on the slope protection. So you can see in this picture here, the concrete that's showing is the actual slope protection. The water was running back by that beam and running down the river. The bank there is very, very steep, and so it doesn't take much to get the water running down there. And it's very, very sandy soils, so there's not much to bind the material together. So if you keep looking here, the pictures, they do it quite a bit of justice. You know, it was about a 10-foot deep hole that went all the way down to the river. So is what we ended up doing. As you can see here, they're pouring concrete to protect the slope right underneath the bridge. And here's looking down the slope, the freshly repaired slope protection. So they had an excavator down there that worked his way back up and ended up stabilizing that slope again. We had an intern tracking the time and materials out on the project. We have yet to receive the final time and materials. It just got finished up here this last week, and so this is more of an FYI at this point. My assumption is going to be that we're probably going to be in that $50,000 to $60,000 range for this repair, and we're going to have to repair that gland. We have a company called PCI Roads looking at a new expansion joint gland. They have about a 20-year lifespan, so this one has definitely served its life. And they'll come out and repair that in about a day and replace it with a new one. So I guess I can take any questions from the committee in regards to this. It's more of an FYI at this point. We'll bring the final costs of this repair back to you guys when we get it all wrapped up and we get the final bills from both PCI and Landwehr.
Any questions of the engineer, Jan?
Yeah. Is this a full responsibility of the city, or do we get some compensation from the state?
We can use our state aid maintenance funds for this. Since this was more of an emergency repair work job, there wasn't a plan specification that was made, so state aid didn't have view, and so it is not state aid eligible unless we want to use our maintenance funds to do that, which all of our maintenance funds from state aid go into our construction fund anyways. So it all is kind of conglomerated together. So we will not receive, I received confirmation of that from state aid earlier this week or last week. So.
Any further questions of the engineer?
Yes, Paul, you had stated that it wasn't done properly. Who didn't do the job the first time?
I guess maybe that was, or I guess I don't know. The slope protection, this bridge was built in '78, and so this slope protection has been in place since 1978. And it washed out immensely with all the heavy rains we've had. I guess I don't know.
Right.
I don't know, I guess where I said it wasn't done properly because we haven't, this is the first time. Go ahead.
You said the rubber membrane wasn't adhered the way it was supposed to.
Yes.
Yeah.
It actually, the gland or the membrane sits in a track, a metal track. And if that metal track gets any kind of dirt in it and it'll work its way out with the vibrations of vehicles and traffic, that's when you have to go through and you have to actually clean that gland out and you have to kind of wedge it back in there to get it to sit properly. After a few times of doing that, which our street guys are usually out there doing that once or twice a year, trying to get that gland to stay in place, it starts loosening up in there and you really need to get a new one after about 20 years. And so that gland has definitely served its lifespan. I don't think it's ever been replaced before. So it's definitely in need of a replacement gland. And we actually went and looked at another one, Drive Bridge, and that one is also in need of replacement on one side. And so we'll be budgeting for that next year. So
Thank you, Paul, for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn till 7:30?
Lambert, so moved.
Second.
Paul, will you call the roll?
Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes, we are adjourned. We'll see you at 7:30.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.